Oh man,
So it's 8:30 a.m.
it is.
and I'm wearing my most sparkly dress.
Yeah, I see that at
And
8:30 a.m.
wait, I don't want to show you my underwear, but I have high heels and everything on.
So, all right, we need a story. We need to know why.
I'm dressing as my future self.
Okay,
This
taking it on,
energy
taking on the.
matches the the energy that I want to become,
I like it. So, what's
right?
the plan with that? Is this something you plan on doing every day, like starting your day, getting dressed for the day?
No, because this is very impractical when I go to my horse.
Right, right. Okay.
However, okay, so here's what happened, right? We started, today is our very first day of becoming a book club, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Di Spenza. Sorry. And we went through chapter one. So why don't, before I make it all about myself, why don't we, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this book? Like, okay, first of all, what did you think when I first mentioned it to you?
I
Because,
never even heard of it, so I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And you were
yeah,
like, "Well, it's going to require some meditation and stuff," which for me was like, "Well, that's exciting because I always go in and out of these like practices of meditation. Um, when I'm consistent, like I do notice a pretty big difference, but and then I find that I'm not consistent. I just kind of use it when things are really falling apart, which is like just like a
yeah,
little band-aid, right? Like just
yep.
they just calm me down for a little while right now. And then the next day I wake up and I'm like, ah. So I don't know. That was exciting, but I had never heard of it. And then I was actually in New York when you had mentioned it, so I just overnighted it to my mom's house and started reading it. And I read the introduction and the forward and the introduction. And my first thought was like, oof, okay, this is going to stretch my mind a bit because I tend to think very linearly. Like it's
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like this,
yes.
I've always had this interest in the idea of the quantum, but I'm like, really hard for me to just like dig into. Um, so it was cool. It was well timed because it's something I've always wanted to try to explore. It will help provide another consistent practice for meditation. And when I started reading it and this idea of these behavioral like being stuck in the past, right? For one thing, which,
Hmm.
that is like, I feel like that's where I'm stuck. One, two, these behavioral patterns that are repeated. And because there are behaviors, these behaviors kind of stoke emotions. And then so you have these behavior patterns that are repeated every single day. And then you have these like emotions that are repeated every single day. And like, then you start to realize like, yeah, that's why it's so hard. It becomes normal to just feel this way. It's why it's so hard to break that pattern. But yeah, it's interesting.
So hard. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're always up for anything that I throw at you, so I appreciate that a lot. I don't know if you said to me, let's go through these research papers, I would have the same response as you do. I'd be like, no, absolutely no chance. And now let's go dance or do something fun. But anyway, so basically, this book is very much about um, he draws Joe Dispenza, who is a chiropractor and a New York Times bestselling author. He previously wrote a book called You Are the Placebo. So in this book, he draws on up to the minute research in neuroscience, epigenetics, psychoneuroimmunology, neurocardiology, electromagnetism, and quantum physics to show how human transformation and change takes place and what it can mean for our lives. Um, in these pages, you'll explore how to free yourself from the past by reconditioning your body to a new mind, how to shift your awareness into the quantum field of infinite possibilities, and much more. Right. And so I think for me, the forward, the introduction, and chapter one, they were all wonderful. I really, really enjoyed them all. So I've known about Joe Dispenza's work probably for about 6, 8 years.
Mm.
I think I previously did a course of his. I've wanted to go and do some of his workshops. I've just never had the opportunity and I probably haven't been ready. Um, I think, one of the biggest things for me about his work is that it actually takes real action. Like you have to put in the effort
Yeah.
to change and shift your reality to make sure that everything is possible, right? And I felt like a lot of what came through for me in chapter 1, and I did his morning meditation afterwards, so maybe it was more than just that, is that I have the ability to change my energy at any moment in time. Right? So during this meditation, the morning meditation, you sit and you draw attention to various parts, like he guides you through it, and you draw attention to various parts of your body. And then he asks you to create a vision of the future, of
Hmm.
like what you see. And I feel like that was the hardest part for me. For the first time ever, and it's a 20-minute meditation, I was able to stay present throughout the whole meditation. But when he asked me to create a vision for my future, I was like, well, I don't really know what I want.
Well, yeah, that's interesting.
But I can tell you what I did see.
What?
I saw me and you and Jay and my kids and some of my other friends like getting onto the jet,
Perfect.
going to the yacht in the Mediterranean, like having these business meetings at the like one of the big dining room tables on the yacht and just like having such a good time. And then after that I woke up and my mood was noticeably different. I woke up feeling shitty, I have to be honest. Like I woke up feeling abandoned and
This
rejected and
morning before the
shame.
meditation.
Yeah, before the meditation.
Okay.
I woke up feeling shitty and sad. Like I cried. Like it was just not a good morning for me.
Mm.
And I did this meditation. I read the rest of the chapter that I hadn't finished and I did the meditation and I focused on creating this future self that already exists, right? As he says in the book.
Hmm.
Very much based on how we show up energetically. And then I decided that I was going to dress up for this podcast as the person that I want to be. Because this part of me is a very strong, powerful, sexy woman that I fucking love, right?
Yeah.
She is a go getter. She will go and reach out to people and ask them to be on the health summit that we're organizing, where everybody else is like, are you joking? You know what I mean? Like, this part of me is the person that sustains me through difficult times. Because this person energetically is the most powerful energy that I possess. And when I was thinking, oh, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wear this dress because I love it and I had so much fun in it last time I had it and whatever. I was like, oh, but I'm so scared. Like maybe people are gonna notice me. And then if I put it on heels, I'm gonna be too tall and I'm gonna be even more
Mm.
noticeable. And then it brought me back to this thing of that I've never felt or allowed myself to be seen. Like, how dare I deserve to be seen? How
Mhm.
dare I deserve to be noticed? Who am I to have this incredible energy and, like everything that I possess? Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, but what do you think that is? Is that like what you're talking about with this kind of living in the past and repeating past
Yeah,
behaviors? Yeah,
it's
right.
living in the past. It's like that past stuff where it's the way I was raised. I was brought up like very traditional family. Children should be seen and not heard, and sit back and always let everybody else take center stage. And um, don't be too loud, or don't show up too much, or don't be too big, or don't be too seen. Like know your place.
Hmm.
Know your place. So I started knowing my place, like in the background. But that's not where I want to be, because I'm not going to achieve anything that I want to achieve if I
If you,
continually shrink back and play small. And this is a theme that came up throughout our podcast continuously.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so funny. It's so interesting. I just like how you read chapter one and it was like instant action, like yes. And then I read it and I'm looking up as much as I can about the quantum realm and the dark night of the soul. I'm like, I need to understand it all. That's what has to happen, you know? Um, but yeah.
So what did you? Okay, to bring it back to like not just like me just like jumping into my future self. I'm actually on my way to go look at a private jet for us. Um,
Yes. So it's pretty interesting because you said you didn't really see anything, but
wait,
that's
wait,
like
wait. Say it again because I coughed, so I no
I
one
said.
can hear
You
what you
said
say.
you didn't really see anything during this meditation, but it sounds like you did. And like, was there a feeling associated with it?
So his big thing is that the feeling is what creates the change. The feeling is what creates this manifestation or this like this creation of this new reality.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was actually very powerful because I was like, oh, I can't feel this love, I can't feel this joy, I can't feel any of this stuff. And then suddenly I was able to just like bring this energy up into my heart space and shift everything. And I know that I have the ability to shift my own energy, and I also have the ability to shift the energy in a room if
Mm.
I really choose to do that.
Yeah.
And you're the
That's-
same. I don't know if you've noticed it.
yeah. I don't know. I do feel like
That
I have a
makes you feel
good
so
read,
uncomfortable.
pretty good read on energies, and especially the energy of any individual and the energy of the room.
Here's the thing, Mike. This is where the shift needs to happen for you. Is that it's not about you always being so aware of everybody else's energy.
Right.
It's about owning your own energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's about boundaries, like creating these boundaries where I am not constantly pulling in other people's energy, and then you know what I mean. So I can have my own. I can be me. Um, how to do that? I don't know. I'm still figuring that one out, but
Just meditate. Your
yeah, I
face,
know. So I did.
really, your
And of course,
sparkliest
I'm
face.
meditating, and like my dog knocked over my coffee, and like is doing on the couch. I'm like, oh. So I need to figure out like how to do that without these little bastards running around. And like, I hear like little weird noises, and they're like feet, and then like a little whisker hits me in the face. You know, and I'm like, come on.
Bob, Carl, what's happening? Okay, I suppose we should get back to actually what else stood out for you in this book?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the freaking chapter one is mostly about Anna, right, and her experience. So, well,
Yes.
that stood out quite a bit. Um, that one was like, whoa, yeah, I could definitely relate to what's going on there. Um, so that stood out. It stood out that like she kind of got trapped in those feelings and emotions, and it just took this like mental and physical toll on her. And I think there's some of that, honestly, that's happened over the last 14 years. I mean, I've had some issues and like odd surgery. I've had things that have popped up that like very strange, you know. And um, if anything, like one of the things that I feel like I've been trapped in are these kind of cyclical behavioral patterns that seem to have started from around that time. So I feel like there's like this constant living in the past and experiencing loss. Like that's what I get stuck in.
And so you continuously lose people or lose yourself or what? What is this? What do you keep perpetuating in this cycle?
Yeah, I think it's losing people. It's yeah, to some extent losing myself, but I think it's this like play out of like the feeling of loss. Like I don't know how else to explain it, but it shows up over. Maybe that's life, but the way that it shows up, and even the timing of it, is very interesting in my life.
What does that feel like though? Like, can you describe that feeling of loss to me?
It's just like this deep, like, kind of like retching, twisting feeling of the gut. I mean, to be honest, what's really crazy is that, um, like, one of the biggest things that I've had has been recurring are these really extreme abdominal cramps, to the point where it's not like when I'm doing ab exercises and stuff. Like, it just happens under stress, lack of sleep, those types of things. It tends to happen mostly then. But to the point where, like, I'm in the fetal position and can't breathe, and like it hurts. My like,
Seriously?
oh, like
When did this
extreme.
start?
I can't remember it happening prior to my dad passing away.
So it's been the last 14 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's where I always feel like the feeling is in my, deep in my
In your
stomach.
gut.
Yeah.
That's so
It would
interesting.
be really interesting. Like, that's like a cool, this would be a really like measurable marker for this stuff. If I like fully commit and see how things change. Like, is this something that I am essentially doing to myself? And I have
100%.
to think
I
it
mean,
is. And
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I do. I mean, like any physical stuff's scary, you know. I have so much shit going on at the moment. Even though I'm showing up as my best self, like I went for a mammogram and it came back abnormal, and I have to go back again on Wednesday, and I'm fucking petrified. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I just feel
I
like,
do.
wow, universe, like what else do you want to throw at me right now? Enough, like enough right now. Like I can't deal with anything else right now.
It's been a weird few weeks and months for sure.
Oh my god, it's been I mean I was talking to you about this yesterday and it shifted a lot for me, but I felt like I was on this downward spiral and that I was losing myself and losing control, and
Yeah.
maybe I have to lose myself in order to find myself again, but I think behaviors and stuff that I was well the stuff that I was doing was not in alignment with my values. And that always fucks with me. That
Mhm.
always messes with me. Like nothing good can come of that. Like that is when my anxiety is heightened and huge and just difficult.
It's interesting because, yeah, I mean, that's where my head goes first. For some reason. It's not for some reason. I mean, my escape, it's real. Here's something that's interesting. And it's kind of play out into exactly what you're saying. But one time when I was in sixth grade, I was 11, right? And I was at this family party, and everybody was taking shots of peppermint schnapps, and I decided, well, I want to drink, and I'd hide under the table. And when they put them down, I'd grab what was left, and I would just take. I'd do this. I did it all night, like champagne glasses, everything. I was 11 years old, and I got drunk, and I really liked it. Except I'd
You
throw up
did?
on the way home, and then I would
Yeah.
have a hangover the next day. But like, I really liked it. And by the time I was 13, like, we were finding ways to drink all the time, like stealing alcohol or whatever. And by the time I was like 14 or 15, like, my what I decided to experiment with had grown quite a bit. It was like, this was like how I escaped reality, dealt with my own emotions and things, was like this loss of control. I loved it, fucking loved it. And it went on like it just grew and grew and grew. And I got in some trouble and all these things. And it was, I mean, I had experienced some really terrible stuff through those years up until the point when I was 20 and I was like, I just can't do it anymore. And decided to join the military. But my point is, like, there's always, when these things start to happen, I tend to find something that is an escape, right? And as I got older, I found other things that became an escape for me. And throughout these last few months, like my head has gone there quite a bit, and I've been able to not do anything, and because of the fear of what I'm going to feel like afterwards. Like I don't want to do that
Yeah.
because it's a
Yeah.
lifetime of experiencing that, right? Like and it gets worse as it goes on. Like the feeling after it gets, I mean, I remember being young and waking up and being like, I'm driving my car off the road. I don't care anymore. Like this is it. Like I can't do this anymore. And
Wow.
oh yeah, like but I was gone for a while. Like when I was young, I it did some very colorful things, we'll say. Uh,
Oh, I mean, join the club. I got
yeah,
that T-shirt also.
yeah, yeah. But I loved it, and then I hated it. Like it would be so great, and then it would just be like, ugh, the bottom of the bottom.
Right?
But
Shitty. I never want to go back there. I never
no,
ever want to go back there.
no, no. And that's like, so I didn't maybe get the most out of that meditation this morning because of my environment, but I was in it pretty well, and like didn't see any of that, right? Like for me, it was just travel and spending time with loved ones and seeing my kids grow up, and like,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like it was this feeling of connectedness and happiness, joy. Like that's what I saw.
and you felt it?
Yeah.
Were you able to um bring those feelings to the fore, like summon
Yeah,
them?
and I know it's like one time's not going to do it all the way, right? So how long does it last? And life still hits and all those different things. But it's one of those things where I'm like, well, if you could do it regularly, one session's not going to change you forever, right? By any means. But coming out of it and feeling, I don't know what you say, more joyous, more positive, not thinking negatively and going right to the past was good. It was definitely like something that needs to be repeated to change this like circuit, this neural circuits of how I'm thinking. And so yeah.
So are you committing to, because I sent you the morning and the evening meditation. I think it was different for me, Mike, because I've done this before. These are his meditations. I've done them before.
Mm.
So I knew what to expect. It never resonated with me until today. I'd always be like, oh God, I should put
I
this
think
on. And then I would think about everything else and fall asleep.
you have to be in a point of like it has to be the right time, right? Otherwise, I mean, if I had read this book a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have done it.
I did
No.
read this book a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember a single word.
Yeah.
So I wasn't ready. Okay, I'm going to commit to doing the morning and the evening meditations every day.
Okay. I'll do it too.
Great. And then, what are your goals for reading this book? I think you've kind of like, spoken about various things that you want to change. And I think our goals will shift and change. But right now, what is it that you want out of this book?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is this, just breaking this past tense thought pattern or behavioral pattern, right? Like being really, it's such an overused term these days, but really learning how to experience the presence. I think that would be great. While still
Yeah,
like learning how to manifest the future, right? So
yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
Great.
I'm sure it'll change, but based off of the introduction in 1.5 chapters, that's where I'm at.
Okay,
What
I
about you?
want to be
There you go.
super successful in business, filthy rich. I want to own a jet and a yacht. Um, I and okay, so so it fits. It's my mission statement. It went straight there. It was like build community. Like you were there, my friends were there, my kids were always there. Like family, friends, like my most important thing. Fun, lots of travel, lots of adventure,
Hmm.
successful in business. Because for me, like what we do together work wise is fun for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like horrible, and so it's fun to be like wildly free, untamable. That spirit to always to be that. And that's the one that dressed up today, right? Because I'm like, fuck, I don't give a shit. And also Mike knows me well enough to know how quirky I am
Oh, it's so
and
good.
just roll with it. What did you think when I arrived on camera?
Oh, I knew there was a story. I knew there was a story. But as soon as I came on and you were dressed up in that, I'm like, okay, I can't wait to hear this one.
Uh,
That's
well,
good
here's
though.
well,
I think it's
I
great.
like that I can entertain myself as well.
No, and well, I mean, it's awesome. Listen, I think there's something to that. Starting your day by putting something on
Yeah,
that reminds you of the future you want,
yeah.
kind of provides that energy and that feeling. Like to start your day, like, hell yeah, it's better than starting it the alternative way.
I agree. I agree. And then I think another thing here for me is something that really I'm so stuck in the moment is this seeking external validation, especially
Ah,
from men. And it's something that I'm not necessarily excited to like verbalize, especially not on camera, but
mm,
I fall into this trap of, you know, wanting to be seen and acknowledged as a beautiful, powerful woman. And like today I dressed up and I acknowledged that for myself, and that was a huge step for me.
is
But I
that
can
the
so
opposite to
quickly
that?
fall back.
Is
Huh?
is that the fix? Is that like the opposite of seeking external validation
Yes.
from men? It's no longer needing that and then providing that for yourself from yourself.
Yes. Correct. Until I can give myself that, I shouldn't be seeking that from anyone else.
Hmm. Yeah.
And also like owning my space in the world. That I need to own my fucking space in this world.
Yeah.
Energetically, I have to. And so do you. And I'm going to push you so freaking hard, which I have already, I think. But, you know,
For sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like own my space. It's okay to be seen. It's okay to succeed. It's okay. In fact, it's amazing.
It's
It's,
okay to
I
go after.
deserve to be
Like, that's
successful.
the.
It's okay. Yeah.
You
Sorry,
know
what
what
were
I
you
mean?
saying?
Like, no, I'm saying like it's okay to like really go after something. Um, and I think for me, like, there's always fear with that. Like
What is
going.
the fear?
I don't know. I think it is. I think it's something. I mean, everything. I don't know. Do you draw everything from your past, right? Like, I guess, but like, so man, I definitely talk about my dad a lot. But anyway, so
But
my
why? That's
dad,
okay.
he uh, he was not risk adverse at all,
Yeah, I
and
remember you
we
told
went
me.
bankrupt multiple times, and like he had to move away. When I lived in Arizona, he had to move away and live with family to try to save up enough money to move us out there. And we ended up moving with family, and uh, like had to move back to Arizona while he stayed there. It was like this whole back and forth, and then we finally got all of us to Georgia, and he built himself up, and then he lost it all again, and then he built himself up, and then he lost it all again, and then tragedy happens, right? So like that's this idea of that comes up all the time with stability, and like I get like it's hard for me to take risks at times. It has to be because of like what I saw go down with somebody who wasn't afraid to take risks.
Yeah, and ended in absolute tragedy that devastated your life and so many others, right?
Yeah, but
Okay, so you need to create a different ending to that story.
yeah,
And it's hard. I mean, but it's possible. I think in that's the one thing about this book.
I think it's possible for sure. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I think here he says, there's a future you, a you who already exists in the eternal present moment, who is actually calling himself or herself to the more evolved, more conscious, more present, and more kind, more exuberant, more mindful, more willful, more connected, more supernatural, and more whole. That is who's waiting for you to change your energy to match his or her energy on a daily basis so you can find that future you who actually exists in the eternal now. So basically, everything we want already exists
Yeah, well, that's the interesting part
as
of
an energy.
this whole quantum realm stuff, right? Is like the infinite possibilities and probabilities that take place.
Okay,
Uh,
tell me about the research you did into quantum physics.
well, it's very brief right now. I mean, we just started, but like this, I just think it's interesting that it kind of just removes this linear construct of time, and that these different probabilities are all happening to some extent, somewhat simultaneously, in different parts of past, present, and future. Like it's like the only time that it ever really when these kinds of things started to make sense in my head is this the idea of like heaven and hell. When I started to think of like what heaven and hell was, I thought less of like, wow, it's this place you go to when you die, and more of like they're happening all the time and they always have been. And that's like when you see some like you see people that are in hell. Like I think,
Oh, totally. I've been in hell the last couple of days.
and there's this experience of, and like so if you stop looking at things linearly and you start to look at it through all spaces and think about that experience that happened, like an experience similar to this, someone experienced hell 1,000 years ago and now and then the future and all this stuff, and it's kind of going up like this. Like you have this present moment, you have heaven, and then hell, and it's kind of going like this, and then you can start to see like everything up here, even though it's being experienced while you're on earth, but it's you're kind of going up here. Everything up here is heaven, and everything down here would be hell. But it's this constant experience of going up and down and throughout history and throughout time. It's not working on this linear scale. And I was like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense to me. And I'm taking that approach to this kind of quantum realm of things. And I haven't completely wrapped my head around it yet, but I'm only scratching the surface in terms of research. But
I also, yeah.
understanding this kind of stuff, or at least, I mean, let's be honest, am I going to really understand quantum physics after? But at least trying to will definitely help me out here.
I agree. And I love that you're so into really understanding stuff um, scientifically. I cannot relate in the slightest. However, I really do appreciate that about you. I think a lot of this is about experiencing a lot
I know.
of
I know.
this, and how do we measure if this is if this is successful, right? Okay, so here's one measure, a physical measure for me. Am I going to own a private jet?
Yeah. Well, what's the okay? Yeah.
But what does having a private jet mean to me? It means freedom. It means
Yeah.
abundance. It means to be wildly free, untamable. It means that I'm living my values.
Yeah.
I'm with family, friends, that I create experiences, moments of magic.
It's
My
less
mom always
about the
used to
jet
say that
itself.
life is about that, huh?
Less about the jet
It's less about
itself,
the freaking jet. Jeez,
the
yeah.
experience
It's
associated
about
with.
having the capacity to create these experiences
Hmm.
for myself and others that I love.
Now, at that point, there's a lot less holding you back. There's a lot more freedom to go and do and have experiences with friends and family and loved ones. Yeah, for sure. I could see that. I get the, it's less about telling people you have a jet and more about what you do with it. That's
Totally.
the,
But I want it to be luxurious and abundant. Like, I don't want to go on a fishing trip and go sit next to a pond and, like, that to me, which I'm going to do tomorrow with my son, by the way. But anyway, I'm excited to spend time with him. But, wouldn't I rather be like fishing from the yacht with somebody reeling in the fish for me? Yeah, of course.
yeah, I'll go fishing, but I want it to be in some, I don't know, small lake in Sicily or somewhere
Oh,
else.
wait, 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 wait. Here's you. I want to go fishing, but it has to take me 3.5 days to hike up to a little remote lake. The hike has to be incredibly difficult. It has to have a ton of natural hazards attached to it. I must get no sleep. I must feel awful. It must be really, really painful. And then when I
Need at
get
least one
there,
of those a year. I need at least one of those a year. I'm actually, David and I are talking about climbing a 14,000 foot mountain in Colorado this year. So I'm like,
oh,
the Whitney the last 2 years. Yeah, there's something about that. I really enjoy. You learn a lot about yourself. Like there's you. It's like forced presence. When you're in like that kind of terrible state, like you kind of are forced to be right there. You're just right there. Can't be anywhere else.
yeah, I hear you and I understand that. However, I'm just like, my life has been so fucking hard. And so many days of my life are so hard. And I live in this like self imposed hell and jail that I create in my mind, that I want to choose to have more freedom and more fun and more just lightness of being, presence. I don't want to put myself through anything difficult.
I think there is something enjoyable about it for me. I don't know. Maybe it's like
Yeah,
what
there is. You love hardcore exercise though as well.
I do.
I don't. I found my dream exercise, Pilates. I lie on my back with my legs in the air. I absolutely. Why did nobody tell me this existed? I love
Oh,
it.
uh, that is
It's
funny.
great. Yeah, it's
It's funny.
peaceful. I don't break a sweat. It's great. My body looks awesome. It's just wonderful. It's everything I've ever wanted.
That is great.
I have to get back to lifting weights. Like I do. I'm like, oh, I should just go into my gym and do some deadlifts.
Yeah, like that's the I like for me. It's always like interesting. I don't know how we got on this topic, but it's with lifting weights. It's that feeling right before
Yeah, when
where
you
it's,
put on your sad ass music.
hmm
Yeah.
but it's like that. There is a certain feeling of like alive right before you get under the bar, and then like it's a point, and usually, I mean, don't get me wrong, doubt comes in, but it's a point it's a feeling at that point where it's like there's no failure. Like there's this like feeling, it's terrible what I have to do to get to that feeling. That's where I want to change, because it can't be that, because that's just past stuff. But when I get there, I know there's no way in hell I'll fail.
I love that. I mean, I can't relate with the weightlifting, but I can definitely relate with horse riding, and for me, what I'm hearing you say is there's a sense of freedom in the moment when that happens, because like all choice is removed, right? It's only about succeeding.
Yeah.
Whether you make the lift or not is really not that relevant at that point. And so I
But I will
grew
tell you, when I
up.
get to that state, I very rarely do not make the lift.
Yeah, no, totally. But I feel like your mind's not so attached to the outcome, and that's why it
No,
happens.
no, it's interesting.
And
You're
that's
right.
what's freedom. And to me, that's what freedom is like being able to detach from the outcome and just go with it. And so the only thing I can relate to is I grew up galloping horses on the beach in Cape Town. And
Hmm.
I had this crazy, crazy ex racehorse, like that shit crazy. His name was Twister because he used to twist around in little circles. Like he was crazy. And not controllable whatsoever. But anyway, I because of this desire I have to be with like these wild, untamable spirits, him and I ended up together. And so I would take Twister to the beach and we would walk the horses across the beach until we got to the pier, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
we would gallop back along the beach. Now I knew that once I got to the pier and I turned his nose around, I had no control. There was absolutely nothing I could do to stop that horse, anything.
So
And I
you just
promise
gotta,
you,
yeah.
like that thrill and that exhilaration of him just jumping straight into a gallop. And then they pick up speed. And when they get into a true gallop, it's like they drop and they go like the wind. Oh my God, I got goosebumps.
And this is
It's
an X
literally the
race.
most,
This
yeah.
horse
So
was going,
this
was
horse was
running, was
so
going.
fast, so fast. There's nothing I could do. If a dog came out, if something scared him, if something did something, I'd be gone. But that feeling of having no control, but being in the present moment, like in a union with something else, oh, there's nothing like that connection
I
ever.
Yeah. No, I can totally. I used to cycle a lot before CrossFit, and I was skinny. It's like 140 something pounds, but I
I
lived
saw
in
those
Tucson.
pictures of you running.
Yeah, super skinny. But we used to ride our bikes to the top of Mount Lemon in Tucson, which is like at some point it's like a single road. It's just not safe. We ride our bikes to the top, which was always cool because you'd start off, it'd be super hot in Tucson. By the time we got to the top, the whole environment and the weather would change. Like it was cold and you had like all these green trees. So you went from like desert to forest like in one ride.
Oh,
And going up
beautiful.
was miserable, so hard. It's just constantly going up this mountain. And then we'd go down. And going down was like this bike with these tiny little wheels and cars, and you were going well over 50 miles an hour, flying down this mountain. And the only thing I could think about, like, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But if I would have hit a rock, it was over,
Anything. It'd be done. You'd be gone.
gone. But it
But
was,
that freedom,
yeah. I think
well, it's
snowboarding offers that to me in my old age. Like, I don't,
skiing, snowboarding, all that stuff. It's that feeling of just being alive and in the moment, and just that sense of adrenaline and just being truly and fully alive in the moment.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Well, I do
anything
think
that
like for me, a lot of the harder CrossFit workouts are like that. It's like when I'm smashed and dead and laying on the floor and just like forced to feel everything because you can't not. Like, you know what I mean?
I've seen
I
you so
you,
many times in
yeah,
that state.
like I can feel everything. My legs hurt, my hands hurt. Unfortunately, it's pain that I'm feeling, but at least there's like I feel everything.
At
I'm
least
right
you're
there,
feeling.
feeling it all. Yeah, yeah. I did hear something. Somebody said, "What was it?"
Well,
It's like
that's how you are a lot like your
I'd rather feel
dad.
pain than nothing at all. Somebody, and I was like, yeah, it's an interesting point.
That's where you take those risks, right? Like your dad did in those workouts.
Yeah.
Not many people want to do those workouts like you do.
Mm.
Really. So you're doing that for the experience of being alive, that
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. You know what's I think back to this super interesting. I know we're all over the place now, but when I first started at CrossFit Atlanta, this dude came in, right? And he was going through some stuff. I don't know his story. In fact, he was only there for a little while, then he disappeared. And he would hit these work. He had no idea what CrossFit was. It didn't matter to him. He would hit these workouts as hard as he possibly could. And then he'd just sit there at the end and sit in it. And I was young at the time. This was prior to all my dad's stuff. And I was like 26, 25, 26 years old. And I remember being like, whoa, like, what is, like, what's that? Like, I just wanted to win for the sake of winning. I was just super competitive. So that's why I did these workouts. Like, but when he was done, he would just sit and feel everything. And then he was like addicted to that feeling of it all. And he would just keep coming back, doing it over and over and over again until he disappeared. But, and now, like, I thought about that a while ago and I was like, whoa, I actually now understand what was going on with this guy. And I don't want to say issues. This is such a, but he had a past. We'll go with that. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't remember his name. I don't know what happened to him, but definitely something that stuck out.
Oh, I like that though. I mean, I think we're all so wounded.
Time to heal the wounds.
That's it, right? It's time to heal the wounds. I no longer want my wounded self to get into relationships with people. I no longer want my wounded self to sabotage stuff. Um, you know, my own success of others, like my relationship with my kids. Like I don't want that wounded self to run the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we go. We're on this journey, starting with becoming supernatural.
Yeah, I am already.
I mean, you've dressed the part.
Thanks for always putting up with me. It means a lot. In a
I,
world where I
I
do not
envision
get
myself
any
on a beach.
acceptance, I have you, huh?
I envision myself on a beach in Italy in like a speedo. So next time, be
Oh
ready.
my god, Italian Superman.
Be ready.
You
Gonna be split. American flag, Italian flag.
Okay, well here's the thing. You said it, you gotta do it.
No, no. Maybe when
Okay,
we end it, like,
can you dress up as your future self next time? You don't have to wear a speedo. In fact, the
if
speedo
I
would
can
actually
think
be
of like,
awful.
if I can think of, because like yeah, I mean, think of what that would look like.
Well, here's the thing: like in California, billionaires wear shitty things and they look
I
stupid
know.
on the
So I'm
street.
like,
So you're good.
I'm, I know. Like, this is probably what I would dress up like. Maybe a nicer T-shirt with nicer jeans, but that's about it. You know, I
But
mean, you
that
see
looks
me
even
dress up with
scruffier,
like
huh?
a nicer noble shirt with darker jeans, and my nicer Vans.
Yeah, you and I walking down the tarmac together,
Be pretty funny. Be all
polar
sparkly.
opposite.
I just wear black.
I'm like, I'm here to sparkle, just sparkle wherever I go. That's all I want to do, sparkle.
So, are you going to do this for every podcast now? Or are you going to dress up in some new future self type of outfit? That the
Yeah, ball gowns. Yeah, it depends what I see in my morning meditation, but for sure, ball gowns, high heels. I'll try to
okay.
keep it like clean. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna.
Emphasis on try. Oh, that's great.
I can't promise anything. Like I cannot promise anything, but I am showing up as my authentic self. I'm embracing it.
I like it.
Thank
No.
you. I appreciate that.
So, how many chapters are in this? How many? What are we doing here?
I
14
don't
chapters.
know, but
Essentially, if we did 2 a week, we're looking at, all right, we got some time.
3 months.
Yeah.
right?
No, because 2 weeks.
7 weeks,
Yeah. So 2 months ish.
2 months. 2 months is going to be fantastic.
As we
All
get
right.
closer, we'll take some. Either we'll come up with a new book, or we'll take some recommendations or something. But it's got to be
Yeah.
on this like
Let us,
this
yeah.
path.
And let us know who's joining and any thoughts, feelings. We were all over the show, but that's what came up. So it's all good.
All good. Perfect.